Sparks scattered over rusted steel as Elias welded with urgency, time vanishing like mist on overheated circuits. The salvage crew had mocked Elias's Mercer when he applied. The dismissal didn't surprise him. 26 other companies had rejected him too. They'd mutter about safety, stealing glances at his titanium leg braces and the carbon fiber crutches he'd customized. The real reason was always insurance costs and quiet prejudice. No one wanted to hire the man nicknamed the Crippled Mechanic, sometimes even to his face. But Elias knew a spine twisted by Martian bone rot didn't cripple his mind. If anything, the disease that gnarled his legs had sharpened his skills. When you can't run, you think 3 steps ahead. You've got 19 minutes before that. Hulk falls off the cliff, crackled Captain Abigail Wolf through his earpiece. The quake had destabilized the plateau. "Tell me something I don't know," Elias muttered, torch flame glinting off his goggles. He glanced at the canyon, nearly 5 miles deep, red walls fading into haze. The derelict ship groaned as tremors sent pebbles skittering into the abyss. If the Huron-class vessel fell, nothing would remain to salvage. That ship was worth more than 23 mining claims. "I'll double your pay if you save the engines," Wolf added, desperation barely masked. Elias grunted in response. He didn't bother saying that saving the engines meant saving the whole ship, or that he'd been the one who found the derelict. During the orbital survey, no one else had reviewed thoroughly, or that he'd argued to land despite the risks. This wasn't just any Rakit, was a TDA 7-9 prototype with an experimental Weyland thrust system. Only 11 had ever been made. Elias hauled himself along the fuselage, reaching the broken access panel. His fingers flew over his custom diagnostic tablet, bypassing security locks. His improvised power coupling hummed, feeding energy into the dead ship. "Any luck?" Wolf's voice returned. "Working on it," Elias replied, jaw tight. He'd been recovering lost ships since 15, modifying gear to offset his mobility issues. His harness distributed weight, and magnetic clamps on his braces let him anchor to the hull. He'd invented every piece himself. Suddenly, the ship's systems pulsed to life, ancient displays, flickering warnings. Elias pumped his fists, but the plateau shifted under the landing struts. "Merc, the seismic monitors are spiking it out of there," Wolf yelled. "Not yet," Elias snarled, interfacing with the rebooting computer. "I've got partial power, just need to restart the anti-grav." The ground lurched. A corroded port strut snapped like a rifle shot. The ship tilted toward the canyon. Elias secured himself with the magnetic anchors, defiant. His life had been a chain of people saying he couldn't walk, couldn't repair ships, couldn't work salvage. Every no was fuel for his defiance. "For the love of Mars, Mercer, the whole cliff is collapsing," Wolf screamed. Elias blocked her out, laser-focused on the reboot sequence. His custom neural link, another of his inventions, let him interface directly with the ship. Bypassing ruined circuits, then came a deeper rumble. The remaining struts groaned. The cliff edge crumbled. "System reboot 39% complete," the ship's AI announced in a serene female voice. "Too slow," Elias hissed, fingers racing. "Manual override authorization, Mercer 7-9er Alpha. Override not recognized," the AI responded calmly. Elias cursed. The plateau sank inches further. Metal shrieked as the ship slid. "Maintain or reinstall it later," Elias said, eyes scanning the holographic display. This wasn't looters. This was intentional. Wolf leaned back, arms crossed, her sharp gaze fixed on the projection. "Which means either the crew salvaged it themselves, or someone else got here first." "Logs suggest the crew didn't have time or equipment," Elias replied. "The removal happened after they left. The question is, who knew this was here, and why didn't they take the whole ship?" Donovan grunted. "Maybe they planned to, but got interrupted, or they couldn't move it without the antigrav." "Either way," Wolf said slowly, "someone out there has the only working prototype of a fold drive that could change everything about space travel." "And now," Elias added, "they know someone else has the ship." Silence stretched again. Outside, the ship's engines hummed faintly as the Tenacious maintained orbit. "All right, Mercer," Wolf finally said. "What is a prize, and A problem. What's your plan? Elias smiled faintly, tapping his temple. First, we finish logging every bit of data from the Stargazer. Then we trace the last recorded comms the crew sent before they abandoned ship. There might be clues. And after that, Wolf asked. We find the drive, Elias said simply, and whoever took it. Wolf chuckled darkly. You really don't know when to quit, do you? No, Elias admitted, gripping his crutches tightly, and that's why you'll want me around. Wolf's eyes narrowed. Then she smiled. Right. But, Mercer, if we're diving deeper into this, you're officially part of my crew. To reactivate the core safely, Elias finished. He paused the footage, the still image of the suited figures frozen mid-operation. Whoever they were, they knew exactly what to grab. Wolf's expression darkened, which means they either built the drive or had access to its schematics. Exactly, Elias nodded. And if they have the Matrix, it means they're planning to use the core or already did. Wolf crossed her arms. So where's the core itself? Elias shook his head. Not here. No logs, no visual evidence. They either took it first, or someone else did before them. Multiple parties? Wolf suggested grimly. Possibly. The ship was here for years. Could have been scavenged more than once. Wolf sighed and stared at the paused projection. We need to identify those figures. Any chance of facial recognition? Not with the helmets on, Elias replied. But if I can trace their suit signatures' power source frequencies, environmental regulators' eye might narrow down the manufacturer or model. Do it. And cross-check that with nearby settlements, or any active operations in the region during the last 7 years. Already on it, Elias said, bringing up fresh data streams on his neural link. Wolf watched him work the faintest hint of admiration in her eyes. You know, Mercer, you might just be the best damn salvager I've ever hired. Elias smirked without looking up. Just stubborn, Captain. Stubborn gets the job done. Wolf chuckled softly, then her gaze hardened again. Let me know the moment you get a lead. If someone out there is sitting on the full drive core, we're going to find them before they decide to use it. Understood, Elias said, eyes locked on the data flooding across his interface. And Captain. The core to operate. The figures in the video sealed the matrix inside a containment unit. One of them paused mid-task, reacting as if startled, and turned briefly toward the camera. Their face was hidden behind the suit's visor, but emblazoned. On the chest was an unmistakable emblema, stylized phoenix arcing over a planetary curve. Phoenix Aerospace, Wolf muttered, her tone dark. They were Wayland Hammond's fiercest rival, Elias added, and they conveniently bought most of Wayland Hammond's patents when the full drive project was shelved. Officially shelved because the technology was called unstable, Wolf said. Unfit for production, too risky. But if Phoenix secured both the drive core and now these components, Elias continued, they could secretly finish the work hand-on faster than light travel. He terminated the footage. That's why this salvage is about to get messy. Phoenix has power and connections. If they find out we've got the Stargazer, they'll try to take it, Wolf finished grimly. We need to lock down the auxiliary components and get this ship somewhere safe. Fast. Still, Elias mused, turning to her. If Phoenix had people here 8 days after the crash, why leave the ship here for 7 years? Before Wolf could reply, static crackled from the comms. Captain. Donovan's voice cut in, taut with urgency. We've got a problem. Cargo hold's been emptied recently. An unidentified vessel just dropped into orbit. They're issuing a salvage dispute claim. Wolf and Elias exchanged a sharp glance. Phoenix, Elias mouthed. Wolf's face darkened.
Out there?
About to learn possession is 9/10 of salvage law. Donovan fall back to the tenacious. We're breaking orbit the moment everyone's aboard. There's more, Donovan added, his tone dropping. We found something else, a device on the Stargazer's hull. Looks like a tracker. Been there for years, embedded deep in the systems. Ilias's stomach nodded. They've been watching it, waiting. For what? Wolf demanded. I don't know. I think we just set it off. Suddenly, the cockpit lights dimmed, then surged to full brightness. Around them, the stargazer came alive, consoles flickering, systems booting independently. "What did you just do?" Wolf snapped. "Nothing," Elias said, hands raised. "It's running a preset. We must have triggered it during recovery." The AI's voice echoed serenely. "Full drive integration sequence initiated. Preparing." For core synchronization, Elias and Wolf stared at each other in disbelief. "There is no core," Wolf whispered. Then a message flashed across the main display. "Welcome back, Dr. Wayland." "For anyone to possess," Elias said quietly, still scanning the chaotic readouts. "Maybe he didn't crash by accident. Maybe he was trying to bury it," Wolf groaned, pulling herself upright with effort. "If that's true, we just dug up a weapon disguised as a breakthrough." Elias nodded grimly. Without the Matrix, the core was unstable. But even so, it still worked for a moment. "That means the technology is viable, which is incomplete." "And Phoenix wants it completed," Wolf said, eyes narrowing. Elias's gaze drifted to the viewport, the endless asteroid field slowly rotating around them. "Yeah, now they'll know it works. Even if they weren't tracking us before. That burst of folded space would have lit up every deep space sensor across half the galaxy." Wolf pressed her fingers to her temple, still fighting dizziness. "So what's the play, Mercer? Can't stay here. We're not jumping." "Again, not without the Matrix." "I can patch the comms, send a distress signal, but out here." Leah shook his head. "It could take weeks or months before anyone stumbles on our location. If Phoenix doesn't find us first..." Wolf exhaled slowly. "Then we hold position, keep the stargazer powered down to avoid detection. We start searching that data core Wayland. Must have left logs, research, something to explain what went wrong, and why he hid it." Ilias's expression was thoughtful. "We might have the first working fold drive in human history, or the most dangerous device ever made. Either way, we'll need answers before anyone else gets here." Wolf looked around the battered cockpit and then back to Elias. "Then start digging, Mercer. Because if we're sitting on the key to rewriting space travel, we'd better understand it before the galaxy comes knocking." Elias gave a dry, exhausted chuckle. "I've been underestimated my whole life, Captain. Let's see if they make that mistake again." And with that, the stargazer, damaged, yet still historic, drifted silently among the asteroids. Secrets buried in data yet to be unlocked. Reshape civilization or destroy it. That's why I hid it. Wayland's recorded image looked straight into the camera, his expression grave. "When I completed the core, I realized we had unlocked something far beyond our comprehension. The fold drive doesn't just bend space, it brushes against other dimensions. Realities we aren't meant to touch. During early tests, we encountered anomalies, shadows where nothing should exist, signals with no source, and then people started disappearing." The room fell silent. Every crew member on the bridge transfixed. I buried the core on the stargazer and set automated protocols to ensure it would never return to Earth space without a trigger your recovery. If Phoenix Aerospace is still pursuing this technology, I beg you, destroy the core. Let them complete it. Some doors must remain closed." The message ended abruptly, leaving only the hum of the ship's systems. Wolf exhaled slowly. "Well, that's comforting." Elias stared at the now blank display. He was scared of something he didn't understand. "Now we've activated it. We're still going to that signal," Wolf decided. "If there's someone out here, they might know more. We'll keep the stargazer powered down and the core secured." "What if Phoenix followed us?" Donovan asked. "Then we make sure we're ready for them," Wolf replied darkly. "This isn't just salvage anymore. It's a war for the future of space travel or its extinction." The distant station grew larger on the view screen. Answers or more danger awaited. And as Elias stared into the swirling stars, he couldn't shake the sensation that something was already watching. Ask ChatGPT. Smooth, angular architecture with no obvious weapon placements, but plenty of sensor arrays and docking ports, more research hub than military base. They weren't hiding a fortress, Elias observed, eyes fixed on the display. They built a lab, hidden out here beyond the maps. Or Phoenix redesigned it to look that way. Donovan muttered. Signals coming in, Phaser reported from the CUM station. Audio only, encrypted, but familiar protocols, similar to Wayland's message signature. Put it through, Wolf ordered. A crackling voice filtered through the bridge speakers. Unidentified vessels, this is Forward Research Station Zeta-1. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Wolf stood squarely before the CUM console. This is Captain Abigail Wolf of the salvage vessel Tenacious. We are towing the Stargazer, Dr. Wayland's prototype. We received his recorded message and seek assistance. Our jump was ... unintended. Then the voice returned, this time steadier. Transmit your telemetry in crew manifest. Hold position while we verify. Wolf nodded to Phaser, who sent the requested data. Elias shifted uncomfortably on his crutches. If that's Phoenix pretending to be Wayland's team, they'll have everything they need to identify us now. And let's hope we're dealing with scientists, not mercenaries, Wolf replied. After several tense minutes, the voice returned. Telemetry confirmed. The Stargazer's signature matches. Prepare to dock berth 3 is being cleared. And ... Welcome to Zeta-1. We've been waiting a long time for this day. Wolf glanced around at her crew. You heard them? Prep for docking, keep your eyes open, but let's try not to start a war just yet. As the Tenacious gently maneuvered alongside the sleek station, Elias whispered under his breath. Let's hope they're the ones who've been waiting and not the ones who've been hunting. The bay doors of Zeta-1 slid open, revealing a sleek, sterile docking platform and the beginning of answers buried for 7 years' questions. She said over her shoulder, I'll provide what answers I can within reason. It starts simple, Wolf said. What is this place really? Phoenix Forward Research Station? Or something else? Zipporah glanced back with a raised brow. It was built by Phoenix. Aerospace, yes. But not under corporate directive, at least. Not anymore. We're the remnants of a division Wayland once worked closely with before. The split. The split. Elias pressed. Wayland knew Phoenix wanted the full drive. For power, not discovery. When he fled, some of us followed his philosophy rather than the corporate chain of command. We established this facility beyond known space to continue his work free from Phoenix control. So why keep the Phoenix Aerospace name? Wolf asked, suspicious. Camouflage, Zipporah answered simply. Better to let anyone watching believe we're still under corporate oversight than advertise our independence. You don't survive in the shadow of Phoenix by waving a rebellion flag. They passed through a wide observation deck, where Elias's Neuralink subtly pinged a low-level network here, civilian-grade but encrypted. He logged the connection for later review. Zipporah stopped before a sealed chamber. Through the glass, they glimpsed an object that made Elias catch his breath. A complete stabilization matrix, connected to a network of containment fields. That's it, Elias whispered. Zipporah nodded. Indeed, the missing piece you're seeking. But we never found the core. Without it, this, she gestured at the matrix, is a monument to unfinished brilliance. Wolf folded her arms. About that. We've got the core. It was hidden aboard the Stargazer. And it's spent. Zipporah's eyes lit up, her composed demeanor cracking just slightly. You activated it. We didn't have much choice, Elias admitted. It jumped us here, burned out in the process, but it worked. For the first time, Zipporah smiled in genuine wonder. Then you've done what none of us could. You've proven the drive functional, but unstable, Elias added grimly. Without the matrix, it nearly tore us apart. Zipporah's expression sobered. Then we must complete it before Phoenix proper arrives. 'Cause if they know the core is active again, they'll come. And they won't ask nicely. Elias met her gaze steadily. Then I suggest we get to work. 2 known space on 1 condition, Zipporah said, her gaze sharp. And that condition is... Wolf asked, you give us the Stargazer? The ship? The burnt-out core? All of it. Silence settled heavily around the table. Elias exchanged a glance with Wolf. That's not a small ask, Wolf said evenly. We recovered it. Salvage law applies. Possession is 9/10. Zipporah smiled thinly. We both know salvage law means little this far beyond regulated space. I'm offering survival, Captain, not negotiation. You make that sound like a threat, Elias said. Not a threat, Mr. Mercer. A fact. You're stranded low on supplies and carrying the single most valuable piece of technology in human history. Phoenix Aerospace proper will find you soon enough, and they will not treat you as kindly as we have. Wolf's eyes narrowed. So which is it, Zipporah? Are you Phoenix or not? Zipporah hesitated, then admitted, we're independent. But we maintain the Phoenix branding to remain hidden. If Phoenix knew where we were, we'd be dead or absorbed already. We've had to make accommodations. Elias's neural link pinged again. Data traffic in the station's research wing C was spiking, and a new, heavily encrypted channel had opened. They're stalling us, Elias thought grimly. Aloud he said, we'll need to discuss your offer. Zipporah inclined her head. Of course, you'll be given guest quarters. Rest. Consider your options. But understand time is not on your side. As they were escorted to the quarters, Elias whispered to Wolf, they're hiding something. Research Wing C is very active. I'm betting they've been trying to recreate the Korand. Now they want the original to finish the job. Expression was grim. Then we find out what's in that wing. Quietly, before we agree to anything, Elias nodded. Agreed. And we'd better move fast, because I think Phoenix Aerospace knows exactly where we are. Elias kept his expression neutral, but his mind raced. There's a copy of the Stargazer's AI somewhere in this station. Or maybe the original, but why hide it? I'll need time to think about your offer, Elias said aloud, his tone deliberately measured, and to confer with my captain. You understand, naturally. Zipporah replied smoothly. But I suggest you not delay too long. The longer you wait, the more complicated things become. Elias stood, gripping his crutches. Complications seem to follow me everywhere, Doctor. I'm getting used to them. As he left the room, his neural link marked the faint AI signals. Coordinates buried deep beneath the labeled research wing. See whatever Zipporah is hiding. It's connected to the Stargazer directly. That can't be coincidence. Wolf was waiting in the hallway, her expression tight with frustration. Donovan reports they're blocking our comms. Can't get a signal off this rock. What did you get? Elias leaned close. They want everything. The ship, the core, my neural data. But I just picked up something, familiar. A hidden network deep inside the station, broadcasting on the Stargazer's AI frequency. Wolf's eyes darkened. They've got more than they're letting on. Much more, Elias said grimly. I think this real secret of the full drive, the reason Wayland hid it, all might still be here. Buried in this station. And if we don't find it first, we may never leave this place alive. Wolf nodded. Then we find it, quietly, and we figure out how to get home. On our terms, not theirs. Together, they set off to plan their next move aware that time. And Phoenix's patience were running dangerously short. Outside the station, the Stargazer's systems had flared to life, responding to Ilias's neural command. It began disengaging the docking clamps, its thrusters firing in short, sharp bursts. The Tenacious linked via their tow cables, followed its crew already scrambling to respond to the automated override Elias had triggered. Zipporah's eyes burned with frustration. Stop them. She barked into the com. Lock down the docks, disable the ships if you have to. But Elias's program had anticipated that. Through his neural link, he'd activated the Stargazer's internal countermeasures and encryption layer that jammed Phoenix's override channels, severing the station's remote access. Weber swore under his breath. He's locked us out of there. Comes. You underestimate how stubborn I can be, Elias said through clenched teeth as the guards tightened their grip. Wayland didn't just leave me puzzles. He left me keys. Zipporah's face hardened. You're not leaving this station, Mr. Mercer. Not alive. Ping. We're mobile orders. Elias sent back a simple directive. Go. Now. Seconds later, the station shook violently. Donovan had fired the Tenacious's aft thrusters at full burn, dragging the still awakening Stargazer into open space. Alarms howled across the station. Zipporah turned cold eyes on Elias. You just sealed your crew's fate. Elias grinned despite the pain. Funny, I was about to say the same to you, 'cause the Stargazer had more than just thrusters waking up. Wayland's failsafe, some buried even deeper than Elias had realized, were now alive. And they did not like being stolen. Outside, space rippled ominously around the Stargazer's hull, as if the fabric of reality itself was growing thin. In the countdown to something had begun. You can't escape in your condition. Let us help you reach an evacuation pod. Elias paused at the doorway, glancing back over his shoulder. His voice was steady, laced with grim defiance. My conditions never stopped me before. Sure as hell not stopping me now. Not waiting for a reply, he pushed into the chaotic corridor. His Neuralink fed him a path through the station's maze of hallways, optimizing for speed and structural integrity as the entire facility groaned under the strain of dueling fold fields. Around him, Phoenix personnel shoved past one another, panic overriding discipline. The emergency beacon he'd activated earlier flashed an acknowledgement valve, and the others had received the signal. They'd be waiting. Elias pushed his battered body harder, every step a burst of pain radiating from his spine and hips. He ignored it. Failure meant death, or worse, capture. He rounded a final corner and saw them Volf, Pfizer, and Donovan holding defensive positions at the auxiliary shuttle bay. A small, fast transport sat ready, its hatch open. Mercer, Wolf shouted, relief flashing across her face. Elias barely made it to them before another tremor rocked the station. A burst of energy from deeper within sent a wave of distortion through the walls, causing the lights to flicker wildly. Help him in, Wolf ordered. Donovan slung Elias's arm over his shoulder, guiding him up the ramp. Once inside, Pfizer sealed the hatch while Wolf raced to the cockpit. The engines flared to life, the shuttle lifting off, just as a concussive shockwave rippled through the bay. Another fold feedback pulse. What's happening back there? Wolf called, as she banked the shuttle hard, maneuvering away from the station. Their fold drive, Elias gasped. It's reacting to the Stargazer's jump. The feedback loop's gonna tear the station apart. And us with it if we don't get clear, Wolf muttered, coaxing the shuttle to full burn. Out the viewport, the Tenacious and Stargazer were fully enveloped in a luminous fold bubble, space bending impossibly around them. The shuttle shook violently as Wolf pushed the engines to their limit. If we hit the edge of that fold bubble, Elias said through gritted teeth, it might drag us with it. And if we don't? Donovan asked, bracing himself. Then we stay here and watch Phoenix Forward get ripped apart by its own ambition, Pfizer muttered. They pushed forward, the shuttle's structure groaning in protest as they neared the edge of the distortion. Then, with a gut-wrenching twist of physics, the shuttle crossed the threshold. The universe dissolved into streaks of light and color, time losing all meaning. The last thing Elias saw through the swirl of space-time was Phoenix Forward collapsing into itself, consumed by its uncontrolled fold reaction. Then darkness. And then stars. Real stars. The shuttle stabilized. Ahead of them, the Tenacious and Stargazer emerged from the fold bubble, battered but intact. Wolf let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Where are we? Elias's Neuralink pulled up navigational data, cross-referencing with known star charts. A grin spread across his exhausted face. Earth's orbit, he said quietly. We made it. We're home. The crew stared out the viewport at the familiar blue-green sphere below, the cradle of humanity. Elias leaned back, every muscle screaming in protest, but a deep satisfaction settling in his chest. I told them, he muttered to himself. Never underestimate the crippled mechanic. Wolf laughed, low and relieved. Next time, I'm reading resumes. More carefully. I think I've earned a vacation, Elias replied, closing his eyes. Preferably somewhere without fold drives. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, that was possible. Ask ChatGPT, ask. ChatGPT, ask. ChatGPT. Somewhere with gravity and no chance of unexpected interstellar travel. Wolf chuckled, her hand still steady on the controls. I'll believe that when I see it. You won't, Donovan muttered. People like Mercer? The trouble finds them no matter where they go. Elias leaned back in his seat, his body aching but his mind sharp. Through the viewport, Earth hung like a promise, a reminder of everything they'd fought to get back to. "I've earned a little peace," Elias said, half to himself. "But if trouble does come knocking, at least now I know I can knock back." Shuttle angled toward the planetary control beacons. Their coms already lighting up with incoming hails demanding identification and explanation. Wolf smiled grimly. "Let them wait," she said. "We've got a hell of a story to tell." "Maybe not," he conceded. "But I think I've earned a vacation. Somewhere with no cliffs, no experimental physics, and absolutely no one calling me the crippled mechanic ever again." "I'll drink to that," Donovan said, clapping him gently on the shoulder as Wolf piloted the shuttle toward Earth's orbital control perimeter. Already prepping their inevitably complicated explanation, Elias closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he let himself feel it, not triumph, not relief, but the quiet satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. Not just about the fold drive, not just about saving the ship, about what one determined person could accomplish. Crutches and all.